Good morning. Welcome back to Daybreak on this 15th day of February 2021. It's now 25 minutes to 7 o'clock. My name is Sam Gituku, and I want to begin by introducing the guest that we have in studio already, Gladys Boss, Member of Parliament or Woman Representative for Uasin Gishu. Karibu sana to the show. Thank you. Great. And shortly we'll be joined by the Speaker of Baringo County, that is David Kiplagat. We'll also be joined by one Richard Onyonka, Member of Parliament for Kitutu Chache. We'll also be joined by one Senator Moses Kajwang from Homa Bay County. And as they do so, I want us to quickly look at the front pages of the two dailies, beginning with the Standard. 22 mad rush for new parties. The election fever they are talking about, that 17 months to the next polls, a record of 1,000 party names have been reserved at the Register of Political Parties as individuals prepare to rip from demand for nomination certificates. Then there's another story that is defining the papers today. I'm in the race. Immediate former UNCTAD Secretary General throws his hat into 2022 presidential election ring, and they're calling it the return of Mukisa Kitui. Then Raila Ruto clash a day after the DP was heckled in Isiolo. And then pain as Treasury raises taxes yet again, raiding Kenya's pockets. When you look at the front page of the Standard, what really strikes you? Is it the politics or is it the pain at the pump?
I think, yes. I think Kenyans are really geared up for the 2022 elections. And reason being, when people are disappointed with what is happening in the country, they then begin to feel the need that they want to change of guard, just so that maybe things will be better. So that is always happens. And I mean, you saw it in the US when they were disappointed with Trump. Then there was heightened election campaigns and heightened preparations. Yeah.
Oh, all right. And then the 2022 mad rush, you see 1,000 party names. Will all these count in 17 months' time?
I think what people worry about is that you might end up not having a party to run on. And so people want to have alternatives. And they also know that there will be many people looking for a party ticket. So there are people who know that people will require parties to run on.
Right. And on the front page of the Daily Nation, pain at the pump as petrol prices go up. There's a similar story on Standard. Motorists, passengers, households and businesses face tough times after fuel prices jumped in the latest review, with the litre of petrol going up by 8 shillings to hit nearly 115 shillings a litre of petrol in Nairobi. And the amount by which the price of a litre of petrol has gone up, of course, an indication of the 8 shillings I'm talking about. And then MPs seek to block weekends in cells. Hasn't this proposal come in so late? No, actually, if the police followed the law, then they would not be picking people up on Friday, because the law is clear that when you arrest someone, you must tell them the exact charges against them, and then inform them of the charges. And then within 24 hours, they can't stay in the cells more than 24 hours. So it was just mischief that they would choose to pick people on Friday as opposed to pick, so that they can justify keeping them longer than 24 hours. But the Constitution is actually sufficient. It's just that we've been notorious in misusing it. And we saw many times when people would be arrested, but then they're not given the charges. Then the police start fishing for some form of investigation. Right. If you follow the Constitution, you must tell the person at the point of arrest the exact charges against them. So because it's being misused, I think, you know, then the MPs feel like they should tighten that requirement. And just to quote, it's a bill to amend the Criminal Procedure Code for 2020. It's by Nelson Koech, the Belgut Member of Parliament, and it seeks to make it illegal to detain a suspect accused of an offence other than murder, treason, robbery with violence, and attempted robbery with violence by amending Section 36 of the Criminal Procedure Code to provide for mandatory execution of bond for such persons arrested without a warrant. And Senator Moses Kajwang now joins us. He's the Senator of Homa Bay County. Good morning, Senator. And of course, we're looking at some of the stories that are defining the two dailies this morning. And I'm interested in asking, because there's that proposal by Nelson Koech to amend the Criminal Procedure Code and to ensure that people are not arrested and detained over the weekend. They should be allowed to be freed on bond.
Is it too late that is coming in, or is it, would you think it's selfish because most of these people that are being arrested over or for the weekend have political ties?
Well, thank you. The spirit of the Constitution already disallows the use of agencies like DCI and those other investigative bodies to frustrate people and to hold them beyond the stipulated duration of the Constitution. What perhaps has not been done is to ensure that the enabling legislation and those other standing orders that the police and the people in prisons use are also aligned to ensure that there is no infringement on the rights of people. It is wrong for us to use investigative bodies, to use the police, to use the DCI, to use the EACC, to push a narrative that might be seen to be partisan. One of the features of modern states is the aspect of impartiality, that if Moses Kajwang commits an offense, and maybe a governor commits an offense, we must be treated in a similar manner. States that do not have that standard of treating offenders are states that are either considered to be failing or states that are considered to have failed. So I would want to see a situation, even as legislators are proposing the amendments, let it not be amendments that are just tailored to the political class, to the governors, to the ministers, and to the powerful people who fall subject to corruption investigations. Let it be the same standard that applies to the alleged chicken thief and to the thieves of dams and grand infrastructure projects. But already the spirit of the Constitution disallows the use of detention, the use of police holding cells unduly in a manner that then infringes on the rights of the people.
Right, okay. And I'm also looking at the story that is defining coverage today. That is the paying at the pump, 8 shillings on top of what you've been paying for fuel. Of course, EPRA, the body that is mandated to regulate the prices of energy products, is saying that this is attributed to the rise in fuel price to the increase in the average landed cost of importing the fuel. For instance, the landed cost of importing a cubic meter of petrol rose by 20.93%, and therefore informing why now we are having to pay 8 shillings more. And of course, I don't know whether you've had opportunity to interact with Kenyans, and this is painful, especially at a time that the economy is where it is, and knowing far too well that very soon we'll be getting into the moment of coming up with a budget that may also review some of the revenue collection measures. What comes to your mind, Senator?
Well, this is piling more pain on the heads of Kenyans who are already suffering a lot. We must accept that the COVID pandemic found us in a position where our finances were quite in chaos. And I do believe, and I've said this before, that it is important for us to be done with the political conversation, which is the BBI, so that we can now move to the other elephant in the room, which is the state of the economy. Of course, it is very difficult to do both effectively at the same time. And that's why it's important that we first clear the political conversation, reduce the political noise and contestation, and then now we go back to issues of numbers, we go back to the state of the economy. This increments in the price of fuel is going to perhaps fire up inflation because there are so many Kenyans who use public transport to get to work, to send their children to school. Definitely fares are going to go up. There is a very huge population of Kenyans who, for them to put ugali on the table, they must go through a posho mill. Not everyone buys that packaged unga from the supermarket shelves. The cost of ugali is going to go up as a result. And so many other things. Even though the government is boasting of how many people have been connected to the electricity grid, there are still many Kenyans who use fuel to light up their homes. There are still many Kenyans on Lake Victoria, the people I represent, who still use fuel to light up their lanterns so that they're able to catch omena at night. So there's going to be a spiral effect on all sectors of the economy. But this is also a clear demonstration that the government is running out of options. It is running out of ideas on how to get revenue. You cannot keep taxing people to the ball. You must create an environment where you are spurring innovation. You are creating an innovation where an environment where innovation is nurtured, entrepreneurship is nurtured, the informal sector is promoted. But you see, if you continue loading taxes on the most basic of commodities for production and even consumption, and at the same time, you've got different layers of taxes in this economy. Counties, governments have got their simple business permits, they've got cesses, they've got all sorts of levies. It makes it extremely difficult to do business in this country. And when you do that, then more people are just going to either keep the money in their pocket or go and bury it somewhere else, because they will not find value in investing that money, because whatever return you get, the government wants to take most of it. This idea of baking a bigger cake. The cake that we have is so small that if we don't bake a bigger one, we will not be able to sustainably feed and take care of the needs of our people, and at the same time do development projects and position ourselves as the greatest economy in East Africa. There has to be a conversation around how much more can we tax our people. Of course, they're saying that it's about the cost of landing the petroleum. But what about at the height of the COVID pandemic, when crude oil prices were almost at zero? We did not see any transfer. We did not see any relief on the part of Kenyans. So the government is using the softest spot, which is fuel. It has used in the past the softest spot, which is VAT. And I think that this government needs to be more creative beyond VAT, fuel taxes, and going for debt. It's about encouraging the cake to be.
And Senator, I'm looking at the prices in your town, Homa Bay town. It will be, Super Petrol will be retailing at 116.58 shillings. Then the diesel will be 103.55, and kerosene will be retailing at 94.10 shillings. I want to introduce David Kiplagat, who is now joining us. He's the Speaker of Baringo County. We have so much to talk about Baringo, but let me just
comment on that issue.
Yes, I'll give you an opportunity. But Speaker, good morning, and just want to pick your mind on what you're making of this increment in the fuel prices. Of course, Senator there says that despite the justification given by APRA, there's also the question of revenue collection, that government is just looking for different ways of collecting revenue. Are you convinced, or what do you think is happening?
Good morning, good morning. This is David Kiplagat from Baringo. I would like to go to what the Senator has said. Well, the issue of increasing taxes and also bringing in a burden to the taxpayer, that is something that I don't think will work very well for the citizens of this country. The Monanchi already is overburdened, and when we say that we are going to put more taxes on the Monanchi, I don't think that is right, and I don't think Monanchi will like it. I don't think it's right.
Okay, all right. Speaker, we'll need to adjust your audio a little bit just to make sure that we get the clarity. But Honorable Boss, you wanted to say something about the fuel prices.
Yeah, I think, and this is when we speak about having a bottom-up approach in the way we deal with the state of our economy, or how to cushion people at an economic low level from these kind of challenges. It's just that what has happened to us is we haven't had the right technocrats to think through how to make fuel cheaper. For example, I mean, the people who will be most affected are those who use kerosene to cook and to light up their homes and so on. But there's been proposals and something that has been spearheaded by the United Nations Environment Programme, where you use a certain form of, I think it's a form of ethanol, which comes out of sugar, which is a byproduct of sugar, and many countries are able to produce that, even in Kenya. In Kenya, when we talk about that our sugar industry is collapsing, it's because we're just focusing on selling sugar. But most people who produce, the big sugar-producing countries, actually sugar is a byproduct of them producing this type of fuel that it can be used.
Right.
And they have very simple ways of dispensing it to the most rural areas through an ATM system. And so if we begin to focus on
remedies like that, then we will be going somewhere as a country.
Right.
So people just want, we are being lazy as a country, or technocrats are being lazy. You just say, okay, the sugar companies, we need to be able to produce sugar. Yes, yet we can use that sugar to produce a kerosene, then we wouldn't be worrying about importing it.
Right, and of course, we'll continue to follow up on this story.
Yeah.
And
just to mention also that, and you'll see that we are a country that focuses on the big companies. Like the people who oppose this kind of fuel solution are usually the big, gas companies, the big fuel companies who produce the kerosene. They don't want that at all. But it's because we are allowing the focus to be on the big companies rather than the small economies that actually change the country.
Okay. All right. I want us to, excuse me, to make progress and discuss what has been happening with the county assemblies. That is to do with the passage of the BBI-sponsored constitutional amendment bill of 2020. So far, the counties of Siaya, Homa Bay, where Senator Kajwang comes from, as well as Kisumu, have already approved the BBI bill. And now Baringo County became the very first one to sort of, is it to reject the bill? Speaker Kiplagat will be giving us details of that. But first, let's take a look at some images of what transpired, of what we will remember about Baringo County. All right, so those are the images of a county assembly that had been sitting. Of course, it had been a very fierce discussion or debate between supporters of the BBI bill and those that are opposed to it. And, well, it ended in a situation where the votes were being tallied and it wasn't clear whether they had rejected or they had approved it. But Speaker David Kiplagat now is with us. Speaker Kiplagat, looking at those images, of course, they were very disturbing and very telling of the kind of sitting or the kind of session that you had. First of all, what was the vote? Did the MCAs reject the constitutional amendment bill, or did they approve it? Or was there any decision on that?
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead, Speaker. You're on air.
Thank you very much. I want to confirm that the vote was taken. Amid the chaos, you have just said it was quite unfortunate that this chaos came in. But however, I want to confirm that the vote was taken. It was a vote, we went for division. The members recruited for division. And we went on division where each member was asked to come and state the position. And one by one, we have 45 MCAs. 4 were absent, 41 were present. So 30 voted no, and 11 voted yes. And just at the point of announcing that final result, there was a tear gas canister that was lobbied into the chambers. But however, we were able to maintain our cool. I maintained my cool, and I went ahead to announce and say that 30 were no and 11 were yes. Therefore, the nays have it. And I even went ahead to adjourn the session to Tuesday this week. So that vote was taken. Some people are saying that vote was not taken, but it's not true, because at the time there was chaos. Maybe some members amidst the noise did not hear, but the answer will bear us right. The answer, and all was captured. So that motion went through successfully until completion. So that is the position of Baringo County Assembly. The BBI, the Constitutional Amendment 2020, was rejected by Baringo County Assembly, 30 against 11.
Right.
So that is the...
We'll get to the questions of procedure, but first, have you now communicated to the speakers of the Senate and the National Assembly on the decision of the Assembly?
Pardon?
Have you already communicated the decision of the County Assembly to the speakers of the National Assembly and the Senate?
Yes, I did. I did on Friday. I wrote a letter to both the speakers of the National Assembly and the Senate. I issued a certificate of rejection based on that count. Yes, I did.
Right.
Already it is in Nairobi.
Okay, let's now talk about the question of procedure, because the Constitution says that once such a bill has been presented to the county assemblies, they have 90 days to consider it and approve it. But now that bill, understandably, was tabled before the House on Thursday morning. In the afternoon, it was debated, and before the end of the day, it was rejected. Don't you think you might have contravened certain procedures in not giving it sufficient time for members to really discuss it, and also the county, the members of the county, to also do what is called public participation?
Yes, I think there are questions on the whole procedure of passing a constitutional amendment bill, and that issue is subject in court, and there have been questions on really what is the procedure. The Constitution 257 provides that once a bill has been passed has been passed through the IBC and forwarded to the county assemblies would consider the 90 days. So the county assemblies have a right to consider that bill between day 1 and day 90. So Baringo County Assembly got it, and in its own decision, in the majority of the decision, they thought it well to just lay it and debate, and it took a vote. Because the public participation, I know that has been an issue. People have been saying, what about public participation? Again, public participation, as I said, is still subject to a debate. How? What is the legal framework? And that is the subject, as I said, the petition that is already in court, where the High Court issued conservative orders against the IBC. It said there are a raft of issues. And one of the issues is there is no uniform legislation on how the county assemblies are to consider. How many days do you require? How and what? And also, on the issue of the powers of the county assembly members, the County Government Act gives the mandate, the members of county assembly, to represent the views of their members. And their mandate is to be close, and it's very clear, it is to be close, they are close to the electorate at any time. And they know what the electorate wants. And they go around and they are with them day by day. So the members of county assembly, to be a majority, felt and say that we already know what the electorate wants. Because this amendment bill was not originated from Baringo. The amendment bill came from promoters. And we do not, county assemblies do not have the opportunity to even change a comma or even a full stop. What they are going to say is yes or no. And the members of county assemblies have been with the people day in, day out. The members of county assemblies are the first level of devolution. So they know what the people want. So the MCS of Baringo say there is no need of delaying further, because we know what our people want, we know where they are. And they went ahead and said there's no need to waste more time, and in their majority. And you know, the issue about the democracy is that the majority will always carry it. So if 30 against 11 say that we don't need to waste any more minutes, and they proceeded, and that's what happened.
Right, okay. And of course, so as you say that the members of the County Assembly have the right to make all those decisions, don't you feel you didn't have that opportunity for members to really deliberate on the content of the bill, but instead you went ahead to make a political decision?
Not really, not really. Makiu, that bill had already been circulated. And even before the real bill was given to the assemblies, it had been circulated, widely circulated. I mean, everybody knows about this thing. All the issues, people know about it. So the members of the assemblies, who are representatives of the people, so 30 say that our people are of this position. Okay. And then, and as you know how our county assemblies go, it is always the majority. And when the majority sit down, we went to the House business, and the majority said we want to have it. And as a speaker, the role of a speaker is to facilitate. So you facilitate what the majority have said. And as I said before, we do not have a uniform legislation on how to process an amendment, a constitutional amendment bill. Up to now, we are hoping that the High Court will give us the way forward, so that we have uniform legislation. For now,
all right, Speaker,
to the individual county assemblies.
All right, Speaker, I need to disrupt you because we need to break some news here. That we understand that the Senator of Garissa, Senator Yusuf Haji, has passed on. He passed on at the Aga Khan University Hospital here in Nairobi. He had been receiving treatment in the ICU. We understand that Yusuf Haji has passed on. He had been admitted at the Aga Khan Hospital. Senator Yusuf Haji was 80 years old, and of course, has been the Senator of Garissa during this term, and he has been undergoing treatment in Turkey for some weeks, but was brought back home a week ago, again to bring you the story that Senator Yusuf Haji, the Senator of Garissa County, has passed on at the age of 80. Of course, you recall that a couple of months ago, even before the BBI second report was unveiled at the Bomas of Kenya, he was reported to have fallen ill, and that is why he didn't attend. Of course, our condolences, our thoughts and prayers to the family and the residents of Garissa County on this loss. But I would want to take this opportunity really to remember Senator Yusuf Haji by beginning with you, Honorable Gladys Boss. Of course, it's breaking news, very sad, coming to us while on air.
Yeah, my deepest condolences to the Yusuf Haji family and also the people of Garissa. I think he'll go down in history as somebody who had a great record in the public service. I still remember him when he was a provincial commissioner for Rift Valley. And I watched him deal with many crises, including a strike of the National Youth Service when I was there. So, you know, we've seen him work throughout, and he has had a splendid career.
Right, and Senator Moses Kajwang, this is your colleague senator that you served with in the House. What are your thoughts and memories?
Well, it is sad that this morning we are talking about the demise of Senator Haji, but we are mere mortals, so this is bound to happen. My condolences to the family, to friends, the people of Garissa, and to the country at large. We know that the conversation that we are having right now, the Building Bridges Initiative, this is one of the babies of Senator Haji. He will be remembered for many things, particularly in provincial administration, but I will remember him for being a father figure for all of us in the Senate. Senator Haji's humility was unmatched. And if you didn't know him, you would never know that this is a man who, at some point in his life, wielded great power. You know that our current speaker, Lusaka, used to be a district officer many years ago. And by that time, Senator Haji was already a provincial commissioner. So as fate would have it, they would come back and serve in the same Senate, this time the DO being the speaker and the PC being a mere member of the House. But he still carried himself with great humility. He made a lot of jokes about that situation, and he encouraged us young people not to be in a rush. In fact, whenever we got heated and whenever we started banging tables, he was always the adult in the room. The Senate is going to miss a very solid member, and the nation is going to miss a stabilizing force. I believe this is the reason why Senator Haji was chosen amongst the other elders to lead the conversation on how we can end divisive politics, ethnic antagonism. And I do believe that those Kenyans who will make their views, positive views on BBI, and even those who will not agree with BBI, they will be doing so as they interact, as they interrogate the contribution of Senator Haji to this nation. It is a big gap, but I am sure that God in his plan will give us a leader who will carry on that legacy of Senator Haji.
Right, and of course, again, our thoughts and prayers with the family. Speaker David Kiplagat, of course, you might have been younger when Senator Haji was in the public service as a provincial administrator. What are your memories about him?
First of all, I want to also extend my sincere condolences on our behalf and behalf of Baringo County Assembly for the passing on of Senator. Senator actually, as has been said, has been very instrumental, especially in the Rift Valley. I remember in our youth, he was a PC in charge of Rift Valley. He was a no-nonsense man, but at the same time, he was calm, cordial, and very friendly. I remember boss says that when we were in the university, we went to NYS, and we used to really interact quite a lot with him. So our memories, my memories about Yusuf Haji is that he is the one who kept peace in the Rift Valley. He was able to instill some kind of peace, and we will miss him quite a lot. And also on the issue of BBI, he went around, he came to Baringo. I remember he was chairing the team, and he was very calm and he was very welcoming. He heard all the views. So we will miss him. We will miss him. But God, in His wisdom, knows how things happen. So quality family.
Right, and of course, just a quick look at Senator Haji's history. Of course, born December 1940, 23rd of December 1940, he would have turned 81 December this year. And he has served in several capacities in the provincial administration, but politically, he was elected to the National Assembly in 2003 in a position that he served until 2013. And he was then he was a member of parliament for Ijara constituency. He was then elected minister or appointed minister of defense. He was in office between January 2008 and 26th of April 2013 under the presidency of one Mwai Kibaki, and then he was elected into the Senate on in March 2013, a position that he held until his demise. Again, this morning, the sad news of the passing of Senator Yusuf Haji, the senator of Garissa County, who had been ailing for a couple of months. He had been in hospital, he had been in Turkey, but came back to Nairobi, and he has passed on this morning where he had been receiving treatment at Aga Khan University Hospital. Our thoughts and prayers with the family. And now should we take a break? Right, we'll be back after the break to continue the discussion here on the events of different counties and the consideration of the of the constitutional amendment bill as we continue to remember Senator Haji. Honorable Nyonka, good morning. Honorable Nyonka, can you hear me? He can't hear me. Honorable Nyonka, can you hear me? Yeah, he'll be buried today. Welcome back to Daybreak. It's now 11 minutes past 7 o'clock as we continue the discussion here in the Daybreak show, but also to remind you that Senator Yusuf Haji has died. He has died this morning. He was receiving treatment at Aga Khan University Hospital. He had been ailing for a couple of months. He just returned from outside the country where he had been receiving treatment, but you understand that he succumbed this morning, and the reports indicate that he will be buried this afternoon at the Langata Cemetery. Senator Yusuf Haji died at the age of 80, and he had been the senator of Garissa since 2013 and had been a member of parliament for Ijara between 2003 and 2013 after a long career in the provincial administration in different capacities. And to resume our conversation, we're talking about the BBI and the counties, and the Speaker of Baringo County, David Kiplagat, has just told us of what transpired at the County Assembly of Baringo County. We'll still want to ask him on who really instigated that kind of attack that we saw. But Senator Moses Kajwang, looking at the images that we saw on Thursday evening and listening to the Speaker, of course the decision now has been made. Your county Assembly, that is the Homa Bay County Assembly, and the neighbors of Kisumu and Siaya have also made a decision, but to approve the Building Bridges Initiative sponsored amendment bill. What does this tell you about the consideration that is going on in these counties? It's taking so much short time, but also with such kind of heated exchanges.
I would expect more county assemblies to render their decisions this week. I know that many county assemblies are on recess, and many of them resumed only last week on Tuesday. And so I believe that more counties will be processing and taking a vote on the BBI draft bill that is before them. There's something the Speaker said which I disagree with. The assumption that because we are elected representatives and because we interact with the citizens every day, that we know better, and that at any time we are legislating, we are carrying the views and aspirations of the people to a point where it is not viable to go and consult them again. That will be an usurpation of the powers of the people as stated in Article 1 of our Constitution, where the supreme power belongs to the people and it is only donated to us. Indeed, it is our know-all attitude as MPs, senators and MCAs that results in a turnover of almost 70% at every election cycle. And you shall see again in 2022, 60% will not be elected. Public participation, if it is a requirement in the passage of bills, if it's a requirement in consideration of legislative business, it should be seen to have been done. Mm-hmm. There are counties like Homa Bay that considered the BBI draft bill in a very short time. But what did they do? They provided a window for the members of public to present their views. They provided an email address. They provided an address for submission of memoranda. And then they established multiple teams to go around the county and to hold barazas. And those barazas lasted probably 2 hours. And so there was some evidence, there was some, some show that public participation. If in the case of Baringo, the members thought that because they are elected, they can represent the views of the people, I think there would be something fairly wrong there. But that we shall leave to the courts. But there are two things that I want to encourage. And even for county assemblies that are planning to go about their business today, the duty of the Speaker is to ensure that there is order in the House. No Speaker should allow the kind of scenes that we have seen going on in Baringo to go on in their assemblies. Otherwise, it is going to vomit on the concept of a honorable House. A honorable House must conduct itself with honor, and it is the duty of the Speaker to ensure that the House processes business in a honorable manner and in a manner that ensures that the state officers and the people who are in there continue to serve the people. Secondly, no assembly should allow the police to come in. This is a situation where we have, in the last parliament, during the passage of the security amendment laws, the police was poured around parliament, in Parliament Square, and some of them could be spotted within the presence of parliament. I want the speakers to draw from the ruling and the wisdom of Ekwe Ethuro, the then Speaker of the Senate, who ordered the police to vacate the premises of Parliament. And in fact, he adjourned the House and summoned the CS for Interior and told him that Parliament was not going to go on with its business until the police vacated the place. Let us not allow our assemblies to be battlegrounds. And if those tear gas canisters lobbed into Baringo County Assembly, that is extremely wrong. And I want to encourage the Speaker to ensure that in future, if there's going to be an invasion of the Assembly by members of the police, which is a branch of the executive, that will be a defilement of the role of the Assembly. Speakers must be strong, they must be firm. The Speaker of Baringo County Assembly should always be benchmarking with the Speaker of the Senate and the Speaker of the National Assembly. We want assemblies to take decisions, not under intimidation. I do not expect all the 47 county assemblies to agree with the BBI, and it is their democratic right.
Right.
Speaker Karich Assembly, they've taken their decision, but the manner in which they take that decision, I, as a senator who has sworn to defend and protect devolution, that manner defiles devolution, it desecrates the institutions that we have established there, and so we need more firmness to ensure that we separate the executive from the running of the assemblies, and we ensure also that there is order in the manner in which we do our business on behalf of the people at the county assemblies.
All right, Senator. Honorable Boss, of course, shortly will be joined by Honorable Richard Onyonka. Before he does, when you look at these images of Baringo County, of course, it's their democratic right to either reject or approve the bill, but the manner in which it was processed, the chaotic scenes that we saw there, does it bother you on what next in the remaining counties?
Yes, it bothers me, but in fact what Kenyans should be extremely worried about is to see how the police force has been heavily politicized. That is the challenge that we are having, because civilians don't have tear gas canisters. They're actually considered weapons, and only the riot police are licensed to have them. You would never find a member of public having it. But we have seen situations where police officers, by the time they must have taken the orders from some place senior. I don't think any police officer would be so gutsy as to go into a county assembly and throw tear gas canisters.
You think it is the police that lobbed that tear gas canister?
Because civilians don't have tear gas canisters. I remember when we were in Wajir, we had a tear gas canister was thrown by the police again to a rally that we are at. So you can see that the police are being used to be involved in these political rallies. And the sooner we deal with that, the better. If you look at what would have been so desperate, if people want BBI, then why is it that you're trying to force them to pass it? MCAs from various counties have been threatened with withdrawal of their nominations or to be de-whipped from the party if they do not pass the constitutional amendment bill. They've basically forcing it down people's throats. A lot of state resources are being used to push the agenda of BBI. So if the BBI is something Kenyans want, then we wouldn't be spending state resources, using the police, using threats, using all manner of gimmicks in order to be able to pass it. So it just tells you there's a challenge. But even if you look at the history of BBI, which we have always said, normally constitutional amendments come from clamor by the people. If you look at our constitution-making process the other time, it was Kenyans. Kenyans went to the streets. We had the Sabasaba riots at that time. We had the people with disabilities had their own caucus group. We had the women's movement also caucusing and pushing for certain amendments. We had minorities. We had people members of the country who felt that they were citizens who felt that they were marginalized, and they were pushing for that. That's why you find all those clamoring, whatever they clamored for is in the current constitution. In this case, nobody asked for it. In fact, when you talk about public participation are being questioned, it was 2 persons on the steps of Harambee House. Kenyans must remember that, who came with a 9-point agenda by themselves without asking Kenyans.
But they say this BBI
Senator
process...
Kajwang has said that our constitution, and correctly so, that sovereignty belongs to the people.
Right.
And it is exercised on behalf of the people. So the fact that you're head of state doesn't give you the power to decide and prescribe to us
what we should have as Kenyans.
Does it not matter the process that the BBI team used to go around the country and collect views and come up with what we have now?
They did. They talked to 7,000 people. We are 48 Kenyans. By their own report, they did put in that they spoke to, they interviewed 7,000, they received 7,000 views. So that was even insufficient. And in any of those, have they had any Kenyans complaining about those aspects of the Constitution? It doesn't make sense. So because it was a convoluted process from the beginning, that is why we are having challenges with it. But then, it has also reached the point where you'll see that county assemblies that are you know, are in places where counties where, let's say, Raila Odinga or other proponents of BBI have enjoyed support. They are the ones who are going to pass the bill, not because the people want those amendments. And I do not think up to today.
So is it fair to say that also areas where the deputy president is supported, then you are likely to have those counties defeating the bill?
It will be, I mean, I think, yes, there will be that kind of, because it's divided now along political lines.
Right.
But the question is, I have not seen the kind of campaign for voter education on that constitutional amendment bill like happened in the 2010 Constitution. In the 2010 Constitution, ask any media house, they were used to be able to teach people, do some voter education, take them through the bill and so on. Now we're just being told pass BBI. But no, there's nothing called BBI now. Right now we have a constitutional amendment bill. What they should be selling to wananchi, and I've seen that Raila Odinga, I think, was going to Narok. I think he tried to go somewhere else and so on. But you never hear them on stage pick out the items of what was wrong with BBI. The rest of us have. We have clearly said on this part we don't agree. On this part we do not agree. But for them, they're just saying petition BBI, we are going to get 35%.
Honorable Boss, let's listen
resources.
to Richard Onyonka. Good morning, Honorable Onyonka, and apologies for the technical hitches you've experienced this morning. And you're joining the conversation as we are talking about the counties and how they are processing this BBI-sponsored constitutional amendment bill. What is your first reaction to what has been happening? Record consideration and passage by counties, but also chaotic, especially in Baringo.
First of all, thank you for having me on. Secondly, I would like, before I continue, I would like to pass my condolences to the Haji family. It is interesting to listen to my dear sister talk. The issues that are about BBI, according to me, are really inconsequential. Let me explain to you why. If the other side feels that they do not want BBI, then leave it alone. Wait for the time when we are going to go for the referendum and go against it. I mean, democracy doesn't say that you must have everybody coming on board. Democracy doesn't say that, I mean, look at what happened in the U.S. elections. President Trump has got 78 million voters, but Joe Biden has got 86. I mean, that is our reality. Why would anybody want to make so much a fuss about BBI if you are unhappy with the process, if you are unhappy with it, if you don't feel that it is a process that has been done democratically and is a process that has not been handled well? Raise your issues. People have gone to court about it. The court has said, we are going to determine this matter before you can go on to its final conclusion, but you can continue preparing yourselves. And the truth is, the people who are supporting my sister, Mheshimiwa Sholei, Deputy President was against the Constitution in the last time. I mean, we went through the emotions of it. We did everything that she has talked about as best as we could, but he was on the no side. So this time around, he's also on the no side. I don't see why we would want to make so much noise and waste a lot of time on this. All countries will have referendums on matters, on civil rights, on human rights, on all sorts of things, and the country's citizens decide. Let us be allowed to decide. I don't see why people are making so much noise. Oh, state resources are going to be utilized. State resources have always been utilized anyway. So to me, what I'm saying is, we are asking our brothers on the other side, let us not make so much noise about this thing. If you are prepared and you're ready for it, you have said you would not want to have a consensus because the issues, every time we have changed anything or anything has been changed on the BBI, they shift the goalposts.
So Honorable Nyonka, how should counties be considering this bill? Is it such a short time that actually it can be tabled in the morning and by the end of the day it's either passed or defeated?
The question is it within the law? Even if it takes 15 minutes, is it within the law? If it's within the law, why would you feel bad that Siaya has actually passed and said, let us go for the referendum? The truth is, and you see there's this notion that is always being brought, everything is about Raila, everything is about Raila, or everything is about William Ruto. We don't want everything to be against or about William Ruto or against or about Raila. The truth is, some counties are going to agree with the BBI. Others are going to refuse. Let us agree. Let us go for the referendum and let it fail or succeed.
Okay. All right. Let's get back to the Speaker of Baringo County, David Kiplagat, because some few issues have been raised by the speakers that have spoken before you. And first of all, why would you go ahead with a session as chaotic as what we witnessed, to the extent that actually two members of your assembly were fighting and chasing after each other in the House?
Thank you, Sam. You must also know the circumstances on the ground. This was a highly debated bill, and this is not an ordinary bill, Sam. This is a bill that we are looking at is a constitutional amendment bill, the first of its kind. We have never done this before the enactment of 2010. So when it came in, obviously tempers were very high from both sides. There were those who felt that the motion ought not to proceed and ought to be defeated. Others were saying the motion ought to proceed. So because of this temper, and you know politicians, it happens all over. National Assembly, we have seen it on other county assemblies. And for Baringo, it was just extreme. It was on the extreme end. And I want to agree with the previous, like one mentioned about CIA, about Homabay, that they did public participation in a record 2 hours using emails. You know, you look at it, 2 hours and they are done. Baringo, they did it within a day. I don't know, CIA and Kisumu did it in record time. So as I said before, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing right, because we do not have a uniform legislation. We do not have a system of law that says once you receive it, you have to wait for a certain minimum or maximum number of days. So for Baringo, it was unfortunate that tempers were quite high, but we tried what we could to calm down, but it went the way it went. But the most unfortunate part of it, as previous speakers have talked about, is the lobbying of tear gas in the chambers.
Who did that?
Of course, we condemn that in the strongest terms possible. We have launched investigations with the police. And obviously, there was no eyewitness there to know whether it was the police or not. But obviously, everybody knows who is the custodian of the tear gas canisters.
But Speaker, knowing that, just hold on, Speaker Kiplagat, yes, knowing that that was the most critical time of making that decision or announcing a decision on the bill, what have you had? Who did that? Because it appears that everyone else was waiting for the announcement, then it goes off. Speaker.
Hello.
Speaker, I'm asking you this question, if you can hear me.
I think there's a problem with connection. Yes. Sorry, I think I lost you.
Yes, I'm asking you because this was the most critical time that you're making that decision. Who really lobbed that tear gas from what you're hearing?
Yes, what I hear, because I cannot, as a lawyer, I cannot just jump to conclusions and say who lobbed the tear gas. But as I said, we have launched a complaint with the police and they're investigating. We're expecting results any time. But as I said before, your guess is as good as mine. Who normally has tear gas canisters? It is normally the police. But we cannot say it because we do not see them in the night. It was about 7:30, and we cannot be able to know who exactly. But we can guess because there were also presence of police within the precinct. And I also want for them, as Senator Juan said, and also Ms. Soleil, that it is wrong for the executive to use their post to come in the chambers of the assembly. Because that is like the altar of democracy. If you really desecrate the assembly, where the people's representatives are doing their business. I mean, what are you trying to say? And even that chaos, that chaotic situation was heightened by the presence of police who were outside the chambers, just within the presence of the assembly. So you can imagine that we are talking about a bill that is so rich. We are talking about presence of police. We are talking about threats all over, and very opposing opinions from both sides of the MCAs. But however, that process went well. I mean, it's normal for this to happen. But as I say,
okay, all right.
We want to condemn it, and we will try as much as possible to ensure that, and we have written to the police to ensure that they do not desecrate the sanctuary of democracy in the name of public, the public institution in the name of the County Assembly of Baringo. So,
but Speaker, before you leave that point,
the issue of the right of the citizen to participate, I also want to say yes, it is true that the people of Baringo were aware about this bill, and the MCAs stated very clearly. And for your information, Sam, that afternoon, the whole afternoon, there were hundreds of people who were outside the assembly, shouting and chanting and telling in a manner that this is what we want to go. So in terms of if Siaya or Omabe used only 2 hours by email and they want to do harassment, the MCAs of Baringo also say that we have been told by our people. And I want to disagree with the Senator Kajwang that the MCAs abrogated themselves that responsibility of deciding on behalf of the members of the public. It's not true. They did not. They just say we are reporting what the members of the public want. Okay. They don't say we are deciding for them. They say this is what they want, and they proceeded. So, and as a speaker, as you say, if you have party who will say no and 11 are saying yes.
Okay.
So we proceeded to do the yes.
All right, Speaker, the last one on this, did it not occur to you at any given point in time that you needed to sort of suspend the sitting, especially when it was so chaotic, people are fighting, people cannot sit down and have order, or did you have to conclude that sitting on that very day?
No, well, you see, when you have a business of the day, as a speaker, you try as much as possible to finalize the business of the day. And, you know, we tried all we were able to do to come every time they said orders. And at some point, and for your information, all those things came in at the end. At the end, there were some small skirmishes in the beginning, but there was calm. When they were taking the votes, it was so calm. We took a division, and each member came in. It was so calm. Each member came in, said its name, and said, I vote yes. Another one says, I vote no. And it was so calm until number 45 MCA was called. At the moment of it, it was just about to announce the winner. That's when the tear gas was obeyed. So I want to imagine that somebody wanted to stop us from making that announcement. But by and large, the business went well. So we were able to manage. It was chaotic, but eventually we were able to manage. But I'm sure our members, also the members of other councils,
you say somebody...
I want to agree, future it's good to do business in peace. But however, the business of the day was final.
You say somebody wanted to stop you from making that announcement. Who is that?
But as I said, a tear gas canister was lobbied into the chambers. And I said somebody which I don't know. This somebody is subject to investigation.
All right.
People are guessing it's the police, but I will not be able to say because that investigation is going on. And as I said, who owns tear gas canisters? Obviously, your guess is as good as mine.
All right. Of course, waiting for the other counties to consider the bill and either reject or approve it. We're expecting that Kisii County is already going ahead with its public participation. Migori County too, but we so know by now that Kisumu, Homa Bay, and Siaya counties have already approved the bill, and Baringo County has defeated it. I want us to make progress and talk about what has been happening in the country's leadership by listening to the president and his deputy trading some words on this.
Kuinsight wa Kenya wapigane wenyewe kwa wenyewe. Unakuja unasema kwa mdomo moja serikali ni mbaya, alafu kwa mdomo mwingine ati tumefanya kama serikali. Kwani serikali ni ngapi? Mnajua serikali ngapi Kenya hii? Ni moja ama ni mbili? Si ni moja? Si ni moja? Kama unataka uzuri wake, kae naye. Kama unataja ubaya wake, toka uache wale wengine waendelee.
And I will continue to work as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya because that is my place in the Constitution.
Mimi sina madharau na mtu, lakini mimi napenda haki. Huwezi kuja upande moja unatusi, na upande mwingine unasema angalia. Unaangalia nini umefanya? Kama mwingine kitu ni moja, we are either together or we are apart. But you cannot come and take credit and then at the same time insult those you are together with. Does that work?
Hata kama kazi ambazo ningekuwa nafanya mimi kama naibu wa rais inafanywa na wengine, mimi pia nimeheshimu uamuzi huo, kwa sababu mimi nataka umoja katika taifa letu la Kenya.
Nia yangu ni kuhakikisha ya kwamba wale ambao wataendelea hawatakuwa watu ya kunyanyasa na kuibia wananchi. Ama ni namna gani wenzangu? Nia yangu ni kuhakikisha ya kwamba wale ambao wataendelea watakuwa na hiyo roho ya kuunganisha wa Kenya, sio kuwaganya wa Kenya. Namna gani bwana?
Alafu unakuja unasema hapana, sisi ndio tunajua shida ya vijana. Nitakupatia wheelbarrow. Nani alikwambia kijana anataka wheelbarrow? Anataka kazi.
All right, let me begin with you, Honorable Onyonka, because you've been treated to this for a couple of weeks now, but the latest accusations are in the last, is it 3-4 days? What are you making up of this, of some two leaders that came together and told the country that we hold the vision for the country and you bring it in the next 5 years, in 2013, then in 2017, and now they cannot agree on anything?
For me, the truth and the reality is that where we are as a country right now, we are at a very, very delicate stage. And the reason for that is that when leadership in public comes out, when the president is talking about what he thinks is wrong with the country or with the leadership, and the deputy president comes up and rebuts what the president has said, where we are makes many of us who were there in 2007 and even before that, 1992, the country has always had these convoluted war, whereby every time elections are going to come, we then start screaming at each other. We get to a point whereby we are slowly drifting our country to the point whereby we're actually going to reach the precipice. My honest feeling is that we need to look for a way. I don't know how this can be done, where the president and the deputy president need to tone down. I believe, and at a personal level, as a politician, I completely disagree with the narrative that the deputy president has come up where he says the war is between those who have and those who have not, where the deputy president has come out and said he is going to fix the problems of the country if he gets rid of the dynasties, and the problem has been the dynasties. I completely disagree with him on this. The problem of our country is that it started a long time ago. The issues of inclusivity, the issues of fair distribution of resources, the issues of accommodating each other, whether we disagree. We should just disagree on principles and not on the issues of our tribes, which are very, very delicate issues. I would really hope that there's a way on how the two sides can agree to disagree, and yet they do it amicably. I sincerely hope that the noise we hear, there's going to be a toning down. I sincerely hope that the deputy president, even when he may disagree with the BBI and when he may disagree with whatever that is going on in the country or with his president, he then must come up with a strategy where he is preparing himself to run for president, but he should also know that there are other people who are going to run for this presidency. And indeed, we as politicians must not be cheerleading and making the president and the deputy president get to a point where this country is going to be on fire. I really, really think that we need wisdom at this particular moment.
Right.
I believe, yeah.
Oh, all right. I'll get to you, Senator Kajwang. But before that, Honorable Boss, so listening to this, these are the people that you supported for their re-election in 2017, and now it has come to this. I mean, who will blink first?
Okay, I think the truth is very powerful, and I'd like Honorable Onyonka and other people to know that, because I have never seen a video clip of the deputy president being disrespectful of the president. He has been extremely restrained and respectful. So I have never even heard him saying that the government is bad. So those words of the president where he's saying, kama anasema serikali ni mbaya, I have never heard. And if any media house has that clip, I am actually daring them to play it. Because there has been none.
He's on record saying
yes,
that the Jubilee,
BBI,
just a moment, he's on record saying that the Jubilee dream flopped on the coming in of one Raila Odinga.
Yes.
Therefore, that would insinuate that the Jubilee government is not working as it should.
It's a fact. I think what he was referring to is that BBI has taken over center stage as opposed to the Big Four taking center stage. That is not saying that the government is bad. If you listen to the speech in Isiolo and the speech that he made in Nyandarua, he was reporting on some of the progresses that have happened in those counties. I don't think I've heard him say that Serikali ni mbaya. In fact, the people who criticize Serikali is us. I am guilty of that myself. Has he criticized the government
in its second term?
Yes. And then another issue that must be correct. It's very bad when the truth is not told well. I don't think he has ever said that there is a war between the have and the have-nots, or that he has said that we have to get rid of dynasties. Again, I think Honorable Onyonka must be corrected on that. The dynasty narrative,
Just hold on,
let me finish, Honorable Onyonka, then you can be able to respond to me. The dynasty narrative was started by Mutahi Ngunyi in his YouTube videos, and he had graphics showing how the dynasties and hustlers and so on. So that never came from our team at all. We've just talked about hustlers. We have never spoken about dynasties. That was a concoction started by Mutahi Ngunyi and carried on by people who want to make it look like we are at war with anyone. And I think, and as I'm saying, the kind of speeches that we are getting. And when I listen to my head of state saying that he will hand over the country to people that he's comfortable with, it is not his country to hand over. The country, it is the people of Kenya who vote and decide who they want to vote for. And we must leave them and must respect the sovereignty of the people. So
let us clarify a few issues.
And when you listen to that statement of the head of state, it saddens me that it has gotten to that. How, you know, a head of state doesn't respond or whine in public and complain. I think it's wrong and it's unacceptable, and it's sad that it has gotten there. But I will ask you again, if there is a clip of the deputy president being disrespectful, please play it on the national media so that we can see it, because we have never had
Let me ask you this
situation.
question, Honorable Boss, because you said that the deputy president has never said that the government is bad. Is he on record criticizing the running of government?
Sorry? No. He's not on record.
Is he on record criticizing the war against corruption and how it was being handled?
Yeah, I know that he pointed out on the issue of the war corruption, but he was referring to a spec, but he has never, ever attacked the government. That one is not. In fact, maybe you're confusing with other criticisms from various MPs, myself included.
No, we're talking about the deputy president who has criticized how the DCI and the DPP were going ahead to prosecute the cases of corruption.
But that was a fact. Many people have said that. Yeah, that is not, he is not criticizing the executive. He is criticizing the DCI and the DPP, but not the executive or head of state.
And the war on corruption.
There is a difference. Don't confuse the head of state and DCI. They are separate people. So what we are talking about is that he has never disrespected the president. We are talking, so if we criticize other arms of government, independent arms, unless you're telling me the president controls DCI, he doesn't. Those are independent arms.
Another question of dynasty versus hustler. Is he on record saying that the next president does not need to be one whose father or mother was in power?
Yes.
So what is it that you have a problem with in how this narrative is going on?
No, this narrative has been propagated and by certain people who want to make it look like that we want to attack people who are, or rather it's a fight between the haves and have-nots. That has never been the narrative. And in fact, if you listen to the clip where he was talking about the fact that we need to begin to focus on the small economics and grow them, and that anybody can start small and be somebody. Yes. And in fact, if you always listen to why they call America the land of opportunities, is because someone can be a cleaner, but the next time he's a senator.
Okay.
Yeah, that you can be a child of an immigrant, yeah, and a single mother as Kamala Harris and become the president. That is the story we are telling, where everybody's dream is valid.
Senator Kajwang, what do you make of this? The exchange at the top and the explanation.
The exchange was one person. There was no exchange on the part of the deputy president. Let's be honest about it.
There was a response from the deputy president. You may want to call it exchange or whatever, but there's a response from the deputy president.
Response.
Senator Kajwang, what are your thoughts?
Sam, I think what Mheshimiwa Sholei is trying to say, she can only convince Mukisa Kitui, who came back to Kenya yesterday from Geneva. For those of us who've been in this country since Jubilee took over power, we have seen the Jubilee government in its best days in red ties and white shirts to today, where people are throwing barbs at each other from the roofs of their cars. The deputy president and his team, including Mheshimiwa Sholei there, even though I don't see her in many of the field rallies, started this narrative. They started by punching people very close to the president. They started by punching Kibicho. It didn't work. They went to punch Matiang'i. It didn't work. Then they directed their arsenal to Raila Odinga. And I'm glad that now they've taken off the gloves and they're taking on the president. We have seen them in Msambweni when they were celebrating a Pyrrhic victory where Jubilee didn't even have a candidate. They went there to celebrate the victory of somebody who seemed to be in competition with the same party. This marriage ended. It is a marriage where it is clear that it is on the rocks, and maybe one party has refused to sign the divorce papers. But Sam, what gives me comfort?
Which party is that?
We have Kenya, we have a society, we have a constitutional order where a deputy president and his team of supporters can be defiant. They can take on the CS for Interior. They can take on the people who control the instruments of violence in this country, and nothing happens to them. There were ages in the history of this country that many people have forgotten, that even to dream of becoming a president was treasonable. We have created a very egalitarian society. We have created a very free, a very open, and a very just constitutional framework. And even though many people think that the Project Kenya is all doom and gloom, the fact that today we can have people who are in government speaking at extreme opposites and nothing happens to them, no detention, no assassination, tells you that we have gone quite a distance. But then there is a sense of entitlement that we are seeing on the part of the deputy president. An entitlement that somebody owes him something, that the nation owes him something, that there is a baton that is his by right because they had an agreement at some point. I want to ask the deputy president to go slowly, let him sell his gospel. Those people will agree with him, will agree with him, but those who do not agree with him will vote for other people. We have created such a beautiful society, and I hope through BBI we are going to entrench it even further, that even if the deputy president was out of office, even if the president was out of office, no one is going to persecute him. No one is going to run after him, as long as he is sure that he did not commit criminalities while in office.
Right.
The thinking that the deputy president has been very civil to the president. It's not just about civility. It's not just about the absence of evidence that the deputy president said this or that. The fight and these little rumbles between these two is even affecting the direction and the speed with which we want to recover as a country. There is no way the deputy speaker could be, the deputy president could be talking about certain failures, economic failures, the hardship that Kenyans are facing, And yet he has been right in the middle and in the engine of policy making and decision making and planning in this country. If he wants to convince us that he has good ideas, there's still 1.5 years where, if possible, they should find a common way of working because they have a joint ticket. And unfortunately, there are those of us who perhaps have been reported to have asked the deputy president to resign or for him to be impeached. I think those might not be the right routes for us to go. But what we want to ask for is some humility and a reduction of that sense of entitlement and an appreciation that the Kenya we are in today is such a free Kenya that the president, despite having all the instruments at his hands, has hesitated and has not gone after his deputy president, has not detained anybody, and has allowed them the space to speak. But let them not utilize that space to speak just for their own ambitions. Let them use that space to speak for the benefit of Kenyans, and not just the Kenyans from Rift Valley and other areas that support him. Even we in Homa Bay, we wish to hear what the deputy president has in store for us, for our fish industries, for our sugar factories, and for our maize and cotton plantations. Let it not be a partisan thing where he believes that between Rift Valley and Central, they hold the key and they hold the monopoly to leadership of this nation.
All right, Senator, I want us to listen to one more voice, then we can hear from Speaker Kiplagat from Baringo. Listen.
Msikubali, yeye mwenyewe tayari watoto wake wanasoma shule kubwa. Wewe hataki mtoto yako asome kwa shule kama hiyo? Jamani, tusiletewe bana. Tusiletewe bwana, tuambiane ukweli vile ilivyo. Ati wewe kataa lakini mtoto wake anasoma private. Lakini wewe ukae vile ulivyo.
And going forward, there is absolutely no contest. And I respect the decision of the president, and the president calls the shots. He is in charge and he takes all decisions, and I have not countermanded any decision.
Right. He says the president calls the shots. But Speaker Kiplagat, how much of an impact has this division at the top had on your county assembly and the county of Baringo that you come from?
Yeah, I want to say that the Jubilee government came in as a package from 2013, 2017 elections. They came in as a package. The president and the SDP came in as one. So we would want to ensure and see a one government, a united government. But having said that, and having heard what has been said, the seemingly divide between the two has played out, of course, across the country. And in Baringo County Assembly, what played out when we were debating the BBI amendment bill can be traced to that kind of seeming difference between the two. But I want to say that on the part of the deputy president, there has been no record of him defying the president, and he has stated very clearly that there is no time that he disobeys the president. So he being the loyal deputy president to the president and doing his mandate. And he has his following. The following across the country, and especially from the Rift Valley. And most of the people think that DP Ruto is loyal to the president. And how I wish that if there are issues between the two, the president and the deputy, that would be best trashed in the boardroom between the two and their close advisors, so that because such differences coming out, threatening the DP to quit and all that, I don't think that goes very well down to the monarchy, because the monarchy now will begin asking questions. Because when they came in to ask for votes as a package. Now, the common person, the lay person in the village will ask himself or herself, what has happened? I mean, is it what has happened between that time and until now? So, but I want to state that we as leaders should be able to bring calm and be able to talk to our people in a peaceful manner. I want to agree with us that this kind of divide is not good for this country. Okay. And I wish, sometimes the two will sit down, agree and see where they've done. See where they've done in 2013. See where they were in 2017 when they were going down asking, and see where we're going as a country. We want to go forward as a united country. 2022 will come. DP Ruto will offer himself as a president, and so perhaps these are democratic countries, and everybody will come and ask for votes across the country. So DP Ruto has the right to go around asking for votes the way he does. But what we need is respect to all the players.
All right.
That is our position.
All right, of course, you're calling for respect. Honorable Onyonka, we need to wind up, but you had something to say while Honorable Boss was speaking. What was it? Honorable Onyonka, if you can hear me. Well, you don't appear to have Honorable Onyonka, but moving forward, because you hear Speaker Kiplagat there saying that it has really hurt the thoughts and the aspirations of the people of Baringo on the ground. Now, what do we do?
No, you know, this is, I think you've forgotten how heated the elections were in 2013. You've forgotten how heated they were in 2002. You forget how heated they were in 2017. In fact, if there was any words exchanged and, you know, basically howling insults at the president, it came from the ODM team. So they've just made a 360-degree
But it has
turn.
never been between the president and their assistant, their principal assistant.
No, I refuse to believe that it is between him and the assistant. I have never had anything disrespectful, so I don't agree with you with that, and I won't even comment it. There has been, people have pointed out, and remember, members of parliament exercise, they exercise an oversight role over the executive. So we are actually hired to criticize the government. It doesn't mean necessarily that because you're in Jubilee, you don't point out. That is why we summon ministers who are Jubilee ministers to Parliament and question them on certain things that are not working in the country.
So, in your view,
that is our job. I think there is a confusion there. The fact that I'm a Jubilee
Honorable Boss, in your view, the relationship between the president and his deputy is as perfect as it was in 2013?
No, that is not for me to say. I'm not in their lives in that sense.
Their working relationship, because you can observe it as a member of Jubilee.
No, I think that you're putting me on the spot on that one. I think their relationship, I do not question them about their relationships. What I do question is some of the things that are happening in the country and what I see and what I can make a statement for a fact.
Okay, all right, that's your take on that. Senator Moses Kajwang, Honorable Gladys Bose, and one Speaker David Kiplagat, and Honorable Richard Onyonka, thank you for your time. But before you leave, I want us to take a look at some of the feedback, or is it condolence messages that you've received from the from two leaders, that is President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. If we can begin with what we have, what they are saying about the passing on of Senator Yusuf Haji, the Senator of Garissa. He passed on this morning at the Aga Khan University Hospital. He had been ailing for a couple of months and had been out of the country receiving treatment, just came back to the country and now succumbed this morning. He'll be laid to rest at the Langata Cemetery this afternoon. That will be preceded by a prayer service in honor of Senator Yusuf Haji. Let's begin by looking at the condolence message that has been sent to, by President Uhuru Kenyatta. He says that it is very unfortunate that we have lost such a dependable, solid and highly accomplished Kenyan leader in the name of Senator Yusuf Haji, who was also the chairperson of the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force that just concluded its a report last October. And of course, it was a lengthy statement coming from State House. He also says that Mzee Haji was a highly respected leader and elder whose wisdom, deep knowledge of the Kenyan society, and long experience as a public administrator enabled him to serve the country in various leadership roles with distinction for many years. He also says that Mzee Haji was a steward of the BBI process and a strong pillar of our desire to construct a cohesive, peaceful and more progressive Kenyan nation. His stewardship of the initiative shall be missed, the president eulogized the senator. Raila Odinga says that on the passing on of Senator Yusuf Haji, Kenya has lost a dedicated patriot and a humble servant. We can only thank him for the years of his life that he gave in service of our country, his last great public passion being the Building Bridges Initiative. And actually, the reason why we're having this conversation at a time that 3 county assemblies have already approved the BBI-sponsored constitutional amendment bill, one has rejected, and many more continue with the consideration of the bill and to make a decision in the coming days. Also today, we bid farewell to one long-term public servant, that is former Cabinet Minister for Finance and other dockets, Simeon Nyachae. The funeral will be taking place in Kisii County. Stephen Leto is already on the ground. He'll be joining us later on with the latest on the proceedings as he is laid to rest. And again, to remind you that Senator Yusuf Haji will be laid to rest this afternoon at the Langata Cemetery. That's our time on Daybreak, this segment. But Sporting Monday is up next with the team of Willis Raburu, Steve Chitera. They'll be here to steer through what has been the action of the weekend. See you again tomorrow morning.